At 60, Annabelle Rivers had finally gotten used to the silence in her home. It had taken nearly 2 years. The sound of John's slippers against the hardwood floors, the gentle hum of him humming Sinatra while fixing his coffee, and even his muttering at the news. Those sounds had disappeared the day he didn't wake up. A heart attack, the doctor had said. Quick, they added, like that was supposed to make it easier. Her 2 children had long since built lives of their own across oceans, London and Cape Town. They called often, sent photos of the grandkids she barely saw, and told her to get out more. But Annabelle didn't want to get out. She had her books, her knitting, her garden, the quiet, until the day her quiet was interrupted. It was a Thursday morning in early spring when she saw the new neighbor for the first time. Annabelle had been standing at her window with her usual cup of chamomile tea, watching the robins flit across the cherry blossom tree in her front yard. That's when a red pickup truck pulled into the long abandoned white cottage next door. She squinted. He stepped out slowly, tall, broad-shouldered despite a slight stoop, with his silver hair pulled back into a ponytail. He wore worn jeans, a forest green shirt, and work gloves. In his hand, a toolbox. Annabelle frowned. Who moves in without telling the neighborhood association? She muttered. Curiosity battled with her usual reserve. She watched him over the next few days from behind her curtains. He worked tirelessly, repainting shelters, planting rose bushes, fixing broken steps. He didn't play music loud. No parties, no visitors, just a dog, an old golden retriever who seemed as tired as he was. On the 6th day, she caught him looking back, not just looking, waving. Annabelle gasped and ducked behind the curtains, slushing her tea. That night, she sat alone with her knitting needles unmoving, her mind stuck on the stranger next door. She hadn't blushed in over a decade, but her cheeks were warm. She didn't like that. The next morning, a knock at the door shattered her routine. She opened it slowly. There he stood, taller than she thought. His face withered but kind. In his hands, a small potted plant, lavender. Thought I'll say hello, he said with a smile. Name's Richard. Moved in next door. My dog, Benny, kept barking at your garden. Figured he liked the smell of your petunias. Annabelle blinked. Thank you, she said, taking the plant. I live here. A pause. Then, would you like to come by for tea sometime? She stared at him. It was a simple question, yet it held the weight of something bigger. I'll think about it, she said, closing the door gently. That night, she didn't sleep. Something had shifted. Something had begun. Annabelle spent most of the following morning pacing her kitchen. The lavender plant now sat on her window sill, its soft purple flowers catching the sunlight. She wasn't sure why she hadn't thrown it away. Maybe it was the smell, or maybe it was the fact that someone had thought of her at all. She hadn't had tea with a stranger in years, not since book club dissolved after Margaret moved to Florida and Helen decided the new generation of authors were too vulgar. Annabelle eventually chose her safest teacups, porcelain white with blue white flowers, and a modest blouse. Nothing fancy. This was just a nebbly cozy, she told herself, nothing more. At exactly 2 p.m., she walked up the 3 short steps to Richard's porch, her hands slightly trembling as she knocked. The door opened, and there he was again, this time in a flannel shirt with sleeves rolled up and a faint scent of cedar clinging to him. "You came?" he said, surprised. "Come in, come in." His home was warm and modest. The walls were still bare, boxes half unpacked, but the place had a lived-in charm. A fire crackled in the stone fireplace. Benny, the dog, lifted his head and gave a slow wag of the tail before going back to sleep. They sat at the small wooden table in the kitchen. Tea was already steeping. "Chamomile, right?" he asked. Annabelle raised her brows. "How did you know?" "I saw the tea bags in your bin. Your trash day is before mine." She stared at him, half amused, half shocked. "That's incredibly nosy." He smiled. "I never claimed to be polite, just curious." They sipped in silence at first, but Richard was disarmingly easy to talk to. He asked about her garden, about the town, and her favorite bakery. She found herself talking more than she expected. "You always live here?" he asked eventually. "For the past 32 years, she said. "My husband and I bought the place when the kids were little." He nodded slowly, eyes scanning the rim of his mug. "Must be hard." "It is," she said softly. "Was it hard for you too?" He looked up. "Yeah," he admitted. "Married for 36 years. Carol passed away 4 winters ago. Cancer." "I'm sorry." "I am too." There was something quiet and sacred in that shattered understanding. A silence not of discomfort, but of recognition, like 2 notes in harmony. By the time Annabelle stood to leave, the sky outside was flushed with orange. "Thank you for the tea," she said. "It was nice." Richard walked her to the door. "Would you like to do it again? Maybe next week?" "I make a mean pie." Annabelle hesitated, then gave a small nod. "Next week." She walked home with a strange sensation in her chest, like warmth blooming beneath the haze of dust. And across the street, Richard watched her go, already thinking about apple pie and second chances. Annabelle hadn't been in the attic in years. It was the raining afternoon after tea with Richard when she found herself standing at the foot of the creaky ladder, staring up at the ash as if it held some great buried treasure, or perhaps ghosts. She didn't know what drove her there. Perhaps it was the unexpected feeling of lightness from her visit next door, or maybe it was the lavender on the windowsill that smelled so much like spring she thought she might cry. She climbed slowly, dust catching in her throat as she reached the top. The attic was a time capsule, boxes stacked like forgotten monuments, each marked in John's handwriting. Summer 1985. Keys, drawings, letters. She stopped at the last one. Letters? She hadn't opened that box since 2001. With trembling fingers, she slid off the lid. Inside, tied in a folded blue ribbon, were dozens of envelopes. Some were from John, others from her children during college. But one stood out, an envelope she didn't recognize, marked only with the words, "To Annabelle, if I never get the chance to say it." She felt her heartbeat quicken. It was John's handwriting, unmistakably so. She sat down, the old floor growing beneath her, and carefully unfolded the paper. "My dearest Anne, I don't know if you ever read this. Maybe you'll find it after I'm gone, or maybe you'll never see it at all. But I need to say this somewhere. Loving you has been the best part of my life, but I fear I've let our days slip by without telling you often enough. I know I wasn't always easy. I buried myself in work, in silence, in routines. I thought I had all the time in the world to hold your hand, to take you dancing again, to ask you about the dreams you never chased. If there's an afterlife, I hope you dance there. I hope you smile like you used to when we were 25 and reckless. And I hope you find joy, even if I'm not beside you. Live, Anne. Laugh again. Don't let grief trap you in our old story. Write a new one. Love, always, John." Annabelle didn't realize she was crying until the tears stained the page. She folded the letters gently, reverently, as if it were something sacred. Her heart ached, but for the first time, the ache felt soft, not jagged. That evening, she walked across the yard in the light mist of rain and knocked on Richard's door. He opened it, his flannel sleeves rolled up again, a dish towel over one shoulder. "I don't want apple pie," she said breathlessly. His eyebrow lifted. "No, I want to dance." Richard looked at her for a long moment, then stepped back, smiling. "I think I still remember how." He led her into the living room where an old record player was spinning something slow and sweet. Ella Fitzgerald, perhaps. They danced awkwardly at first, then fluidly. Annabelle closed her eyes. She wasn't 60. She wasn't grieving. She was alive. And the story was just beginning. Thanks for engaging. Do subscribe to our channel to watch part 2.